Hello and welcome to Ultra Quest Ruins of Arkenspire, and the stretch goals. And I just wanted to show all those boxes piled up like that because those are big, big boxes. Usually one board game only comes in like one of those boxes, and we have three of them. And then look at all this stuff. All these cards are components for this game. And look at all the miniatures. And then there's even more over here. The game comes with some punch boards, not too many, and then some two actual game boards. There's another game board underneath. Um, so this game has been done by One Stop Co-op Shop, and for those of you who are familiar with my videos, you understand what I'm doing and how I do it. For those of you who aren't familiar, I highly recommend that you watch the One Stop Co-op Shop video. I'm not trying to compete with them, not even in the slightest. What I do is I play a full campaign. So we're going to play a campaign of this game, and we'll talk about the rules, and we're going to go through the rules together. If I get a rule wrong, my viewers help me get it right, because there's a few that will watch this in real time with me. And that's what we do. It's not meant to be high quality production value. Like, the one criticism I can make of One Stop Co-op Shop is it's 2 videos and then they're done. Because that's all either they got paid to do or it's all they want to do because they need to move on to the next game. I'm not. That's where I sort of differentiate myself. But with that said, my video is going to be a lot less edited, a lot less production quality. There's so many things, so I highly, highly recommend that you watch it. I watched their videos, so um, it's a wonderful video. So what this is about is we're going to play the game together, and and talk about it. And the one nice thing is I'm not being paid to do it, so I'll tell you what I really think. I mean, whether that matters or not is up to you. Um, the I do have Brook City, and I really like that game. I do have some beef with it. I especially didn't like the expansion, the Keys expansion. I have all kinds of issues with that, but I still enjoy the game a lot, and I thought that the police decks were very funny and really good. But I do agree with some of the criticisms that after you play it several times, that the police deck from one to the next to the next, I mean, it's a little bit of a difference in play style, but it's not that different. Um, so this game is Brook City in dungeon mode, and I've seen plenty of comments from the Sadler brothers that they absolutely hate it when people say it that way. So I said it that way, but now I'll correct it for them because I really think that what they're trying to say is look, they took some of the successful mechanics from Brook City and Street Masters, and they designed a new game from it. And I think that is probably accurate. Just from what I know from reading the rules in a playthrough, uh, obviously I haven't punched the board, so I haven't played this game yet. So we're going to discover it together. Um, okay, so some basic protocols with my channel. The first video is going to be introduction and setup, where we're going to go over all this stuff. If you're here for the playthrough, go to video 2. So how long did it take me? It took me 3 minutes and 53 seconds to say that to you. So I apologize because some folks go bonkers. I wasted 3 minutes and 53 seconds before you told me to go to video 2. Sorry. I'm so sorry. And if that upsets you, don't watch my videos. Just go to someone else's channel. Seriously. I'm not in this to make money. In full disclosure, I have made $100 in 3 years of recording these videos, and I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos. So I think I might come out to 29 cents an hour. I'm not quite sure. I would need to get out a calculator to tell you with certainty, but I wanted to at least give that disclosure. I don't make money doing this. My camera alone cost 7 times what I made so far. This game cost more than what I've made. Now, with that being said, this game was expensive. And some of you are probably wondering, like, okay, did I really need to buy all these add-ons? And my immediate answer is no. Now, I haven't played it yet, but just looking at it and what I understand from Brook City, it's no. You can play a complete full game and enjoy this without having the expansions. What the expansions give you is choices and variety, which I think everybody wants in their game after they've played it a few times. So that's when it becomes a yes. So let's jump in and let's go over setup and the components, and we'll go from there. So first thing I want to point out is that the rulebook has a setup section, which for the most part you need to ignore, because this setup is for a single game. So you got some buddies that came over, you just want to go do one mission, you would do this setup and then off you go. The actual setup for a campaign is in the back. They have a campaign section, which is here, and see there's campaign setup. So things are just a tad bit different, but basically this is just a modification of the setup that you see here. So if you're wondering, okay, how do I do a campaign versus not do a campaign? That's the first thing to just get out of the way, is understand that there's another setup section further down in the rulebook that might trip you up if you're trying to do campaign. The other thing is the components are going to trip you up as well. So let's jump into some of those and talk about it. And as you can see, I haven't punched the boards yet, so we're not going to be doing a playthrough on this video at all. We're just going to go through setup, and that's it. Okay. So with that being said, what do I have? Like, what are the expansions? I know I told you I have the base Altar Quest game. I have Ruins of Arkenspire, which is a huge expansion. And then I have this box called Stretch Goals. And then I also have this thing called the First Four. Now, another feature that I have with this channel is I do also have this set up, so we can I have a green screen, so we can take our cards and review them. And let's do that right now. So the first thing is I'm going to just grab a hero that's in the game, Gavin Ulrich. I think One Stop Co-op Shop actually used this guy. I don't remember. So I may need to make my camera zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So there we go. So we got Gavin Ulrich here. And because of the green screen, you're going to sometimes see some things like, for example, this has green in it. And actually, that came out really good. All right, I won't experiment while I'm recording. Here we go. So Gavin Ulrich will be a hero. So you get to choose a character like him, and then you get a entire deck of cards that go with it. And so with this deck of cards, what they do is they basically constitute your actions. Some of the things, so let me put this up to the side here. Some of the things with this deck of cards is that you're going to see he has starting equipment. How do you know this equipment's his? Well, because it's got his picture on it. So it's pretty easy to determine, like, if you ever get this mixed up. So he'll start with this Illuminary Pendant and the Sword of Ulrich. And this is your classic kind of game where you're going to exhaust them, to use whatever abilities are on there. There's these special symbols which tie to the dice. If you ever played Mage Knight, it has a Mage Knight mechanic where this is like the mana dice. So you need to have the right kind of mana token to use that particular ability. Now, I don't think they're called mana dice in this game, but if you've played, I just Mage Knight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so and then there you this, by the way, is range, if you're wondering, and yes, he's going to have some equipment card. And so what you can see here from the setup is they're telling you to take your hero, make a deck, right, and then put your hero here, and then put his equipment like that. And so that's how you would set up that hero. And then you're off and running. And then you would shuffle these cards. And you'd be off and running. But there's one more thing you got to do. And this actually, it wasn't very obvious to me, and the rulebook does not explain it to you at all. But see how there's this like white banner in the middle? Well, if you go through the deck, oh look, there's some golden ones. See those? These ones need to be taken out of the deck. This is your starting deck. So whether you're doing a campaign mode or not, you would shuffle these, and that would be the deck. And then what he does is he draws 4 of them, and you literally, when it's your turn, you have a hand of cards, and you use them to play the game. And then you always draw 1 card at the end of your turn, and that's sort of how the game plays out. Now, what are these golden cards? Well, what these golden cards are is these are called upgrade cards. So if you've played any type of dungeon romping game, this is the concept of leveling up. So, for example, if you level up this hero, you would have these cards, you would draw 1, and now he levels up, and you get to add this card to his deck. Leveling up only occurs if you play the campaign mode. So, if you're not playing the campaign mode, if you're just having a night of fun, just want to do one mission, or you're playing with some buddies, you got to take these cards out. They don't belong, and they won't be used at all. Just put them back in the box. But if you're playing the campaign mode, you got to set these to the side because these are important. That's how you level up your character. Now, what does it mean to level up? Well, if you look at his regular cards, he has leading the charge, right? And then he has leading the charge level up version. And if you compare the two, there's got to be a difference between them. Let's see, each hero may discard 1 inspiration to move up to 2 spaces, then attack. Oh, right here, it's attack +1. Boy, that's really hard to read. That little red there, attack +1, that plus sign is so tiny. But it is noticeable when you put them side by side. And then you can see here he deals 2 damage, and here he only deals 1 damage. So it is an upgrade. And what you would do is you would discard this card and then replace it with that one. So that's how the leveling up in this game works. Now, if you've ever played Fantasy Flight games, Descent, Journeys in the Dark, etc., the enemies will level up as well. It's very similar, and that's where these enemy upgrade cards come in. So you can see the enemy upgrade cards, right there, and what those are is those are generic cards that'll just say, like, I wish this game used more traditional enemies. It doesn't. Like, I'm not even sure goblins are in this game. Like, it uses frogs, and I mean, I guess one criticism I have is that I like D&D style enemies. I really do. I like having undead, etc. I mean, they do have Gert, which looks like I don't know. They might have goblins, but anyways, what it'll do is it'll say, like, I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know if there's goblins in the game, but it'll say all goblins get +1 to their attack. So it'll be a very generic rule. Let me grab one of the cards. I'll show you. There's no reason not to show you. At the end of the quest, put this in the villain play area. Each hero within range of an enemy must either discard a focus or suffer a damage. So that one is just showing that the enemy has enhanced tactics. So that's not even like what I just described. So when you get one at the end of a campaign added to your deck, they get one too. It is possible for you to get more than one, and that is if you have enough supplies in the game. And no, we're not talking about the Chinese surprise. Supplies! Sorry. This is supplies, which is, and if you have 5 of them, then you can upgrade yourself a second. That's the magic number, is when you're playing this game, you want to get 5 of these suckers and hoard them. And don't give them up if you're playing a campaign. And because you can cash those in to upgrade yourself twice instead of once. And all that stuff is spelled out in the back here. When you get into the campaign game, there's this train section here. If the heroes won the quest, you may add one of their hero upgrade cards to the journal. Then, regardless of winning or losing, you can spend 5 supplies to add one of your hero upgrade cards to the journal. So basically you get to add a second card. Okay, so with that being said, we need to choose a hero, or if you're playing 4 characters, you need to choose 4 heroes. And if you remember Brook City, or if you've played any of these other guys' other games, they do what's called a modular deck system. And so basically, there's 4 decks. So, like in Brook City, you chose a cop, you chose a criminal, you chose like the criminal's minions, and then there was like the crime that was being committed. I think it was the 4 thing. Or I'm sorry, no. In Brook City, the criminal and the minions went together. Um, there was the cops, the criminal, the crime, and then I think there was a 4th one. I forget. It was like motives, or it was like the story behind it, or whatever. Like, one of them's a serial killer. One of them's, anyways. And the reason they call it the modular deck system is because you pick and choose which decks you want for your first game, and then you just choose a different set of decks for your second game, um, and so forth. Now, Thunder Quest. If you've ever played that game, I've never done a video series on it, but I do own it, and I enjoy it, although the setup's way too long. Um, Thunder Quest has a similar concept. This game is stepping on the toes of Thunder Quest in a lot of ways. Um, but this one has a campaign, as you can see, with the campaign rules. And then you're going to have this little story guide here. This one comes with the base game. And what you do is, you get to choose. You just choose your own adventure. There's campaign upkeep, like things that happen in between the turns. How do you set up the game? So here it's telling you, okay, whoops. So here it's telling you, okay, you need to use the search quest deck. The threat deck needs to be Raglanders, and the villain deck needs to be Gert. Okay? Now, the 4th deck in that is your hero. That's your 4th deck. So this is the modular deck system. So when you're playing the campaign game, they tell you what mix and match of quest, threat, and villain you need to use. If you just want to play a free-form game, I mean, you get to pick whatever you want, and that's where it's modular. So with that being said, like, okay, so they said Raglanders, Gert, and the Search. So let's say you pick this hero. I'm not saying you have to, but let's say that's the one we did pick. So that would be your hero, and he would be in your game. And then they were saying, sorry, this is Gert right here, and the Raglanders are way over there. See in the corner. And then the search is right there. So you would just take, uh, so that pile, Gert, Raglanders all the way at the end, and search. Every other deck of cards that you see from here over, they're out of the game. So I lined all this stuff up to show you how overwhelming this game is, but all this stuff is not even going to be used for a whole game. So what I'm trying to show is the brothers went nuts. There are so many combinations of things that you really can replay this game several hundred times and probably not have the same combination of stuff. Now, I've played these kind. You can play the game maybe 6 times and start to get a good feel of how they go. And you don't need to do all the rest before you either decide you like it or you don't. But with that said, I just wanted to, this laying all this stuff out was great for overwhelming purposes, but really you're only picking 4 of those decks of cards and the rest are out of the game. Okay, now the miniatures are the same deal. Like these miniatures here are going to belong to one set of minions. Like let's say it's the Raglanders. Well, then you're going to pull these out and none of the other ones are going to get used. So most of these miniatures are going to be used only when you pick a specific minion or villain. Now, every villain is going to have a miniature, and also every hero has a miniature as well. I want to say these might actually be the villains here. They usually make them a different color, but I think the villains are going to be this different color, and these are going to be the heroes. This for sure is one of the heroes. And then, the minions are going to be the gray. Now, they did some awesome stuff, like this one has an actual door. So we get to put a door in the game, whereas as you can see here on the board, that's a door right there. Well, I mean, that looks a hell of a lot cooler, right? So, I mean, there's going to be miniatures like that that help you out. And then there's features, which are another deck up here. They go into the room. Like a feature will be, you know, something like this. I don't even know what this is. I'm just grabbing it. So they have a lot of, neat little things. Like this is actually looks like a prison cage. Um, so whatever you run into, they have a miniature for it. And I believe, so here's the biggest mistake I made is I started pulling stuff out. I don't remember which ones are the base game versus which ones are the expansion. Um, I'm guessing that the features like these doors are expansion. I'm not sure how much of that is base game. Now, with that said, I also have the first 4 hero pack, which is these guys. So 4 of those hero decks that you see up there are with the first 4 hero pack. So if you take 4 of those out, then whatever's left is what the comes with the other games. Uh, we have altar cards, which will come up as you experience altars in the game. I know it sounds silly, but really it's going to be situational on whether or not you use those. The search cards are used in every game. The equipment cards, of course, are how you get loot, which is a cool feature. Obviously, it's required for dungeon romping. The lurkers are like enemies that are in every dungeon every time. They're like generic, so they're not going to be specific to a villain or a minion. And then you're going to have story cards. So this is the story for the campaign of the Ruins of Arkenspire, which is one of the expansion campaigns. And then you're going to have Out of Lucin, which was one of the ones that came with the base game. There are allies in the game, which you can add to make the game a little bit easier. And these allies will be mirrors of heroes that are already in the game. So if you pick that hero, you obviously shouldn't pick an ally that's the same hero. It's going to be confusing because if you've never played Street Masters or um, or Brook City, the concept of an ally is it's somebody else. So if you're playing a 4-player game, you do 4 players plus you might have 2 allies with you. Those allies are meant to make it easier. So they're like, think of them as like NPC characters. Now, when you're looking at your deck of cards, for example, see right there, that's Blake Gallo. Okay, check out what that ally is. That's Blake Gallo. So when you pick your allies, it's going to be characters you could possibly pick for the game. So what I'm just trying to say is when you're sorting through your cards or whatnot, the ally is different than the actual hero deck. So don't get confused by it. It very clearly says, let me reach over and grab it. It very clearly says on the top that it's an ally. You'll be good. Don't worry about it. Now, one thing I did, which was a huge mistake, but it's so funny. I hope you guys aren't goobers for me. I'm the reason why they have to put warning signs on McDonald's coffee. I seriously believe that some days. So here's what's so funny. So funny. In the expansion, the Ruins of Arkenspire, they give you these boxes. And in the box, it says, do not open until instructed. And so guess what I did? I opened it. I don't remember what was in them, folks. Like I was opening everything up and just mixing and matching the cards, and I was so busy and so enthralled with all the components in the game. I opened this box and I have no idea what was in it. So I can't even like put it back in the box. I can't even tell you how I'm surprised by what was in the box. I mean, because it's like a legacy type of thing. The campaign, this Ruins of Arkenspire campaign, I think on Quest 6, you actually unlock box 1 and you get to see what's inside, right? That's supposed to be like the exciting thing that you play the game for. And here you go. You pick. Which of those is in the box? I have no idea. I absolutely have no idea what's in box 1. So one of these heroes or villains or something was in box 1. No clue. So I apologize if I'm spoiling something. I couldn't spoil it even if I wanted to. It's just mixed in with everything else. I mean, there's nothing here that stands out as, hey, this is something you're not supposed to know about until later. I mean, it truly, truly is. Um, uh, well, let's just say it's components that mix into the game. So, uh, I'm sorry. I guess I can't spoil it because I don't know what it is. But I confess, I opened them. So, uh, anyways, my board game geek ID is SCHMOO34, Shmoo34. Private message me if you know what the contents of the box are, and I will put them back in the box so I don't ruin this playthrough for people. I honestly don't know what was in the box. And anyway, and I opened both boxes, box 1 and box 2. So, yay me. But now, one thing is very certain, and I have limitations with my cord for my camera here because my camera is connected to a computer, so I can do this whole green screen effect. So bear with me as um, well, here, I'll try to reach across the table here. There's some set of components that you need to absolutely set aside because it does not belong in this game. And oh, I forgot to mention, there's even more miniatures over here. I know they're covered up by bags and stuff, but that's even more miniatures. And those are the ruins of Arkenspire. Okay, so the big thing that you need to take out are the encounter cards. Because the ruins of Arkenspire has this concept called encounters. So underneath this, as you can see, is a big game board where you're doing an actual big dungeon. I think people have referenced that it's like Hero Quest, and it is. But they have this concept called encounters. So, for example, this is a campsite, and so you play the entire game at the campsite. It's like this is the game board, and this is meant to be like a mini encounter to help you learn the game, get some of the rules out of the way. I guess it's a quicker game, and it's just it's a good way to introduce it to people without overwhelming them with all these cards. And when you play this type of game, you're either playing this or the campaign or the big game board. It's not both. Like you don't mix this in. This doesn't get mixed into the campaigns. So that's the reason why I'm saying this is that these encounters are like a separate thing. So you may want to just put them in their own box and close it, you know. And so now, what cards should you pull out? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, this is a player aid on your turn and the villain's turn, right? This comes with the base game. Well, there's another set of them that's just for encounters because encounters plays differently. And I'm going to have to reach really far across the table here. So bear with me as I attempt to do so. And I have really bad vision, so I'm trying to find the right cards. Okay, so there's this. That's one of the cards I'm looking for. And then this is the other one. Okay, so with this type of game, you have the hero turn, which just looks just like the base game, right? So the base game has a little player aid, and so does the new one, right? And in fact, I think these are identical. Where it changes is what the enemies do. So here you can see in the regular game, you have a quest turn, and then here you have an encounter turn. So the threat turn, the villain turn are mostly the same. You can see here that the threat turn is slightly bigger. I mean, you can just tell by looking at the paragraph. So there is a bit more instruction in a threat turn. But yeah, when you're playing these encounters, you have a completely different player aid. So first of all, make sure you get those separate and don't screw that up. And then the actual encounter card itself is, like, for example, that particular tile we're looking at is Camp Ambush. So these are encounter cards, and it has its own set of rules. There's even a special rule book just for encounters, and yeah, it's got its own deck of cards and whatnot. So they will have a band right through the middle, and there are 4 encounter decks. So these are very special and only used for these particular boards. You have you have, oh gosh, this looks like a dining hall one. We have one that looks like it's in a graveyard, and this one looks like it's in a dungeon. So um, I don't know if I can read them from over here because I have them all way out on the other end of my table. There's the Arkenhold, the Grave Disturbances, which I'm guessing is the graveyard, and In Trouble, which is going to be the inn. So I went probably way too in depth on that, but just trying to help people with sorting their components and also hoping that you don't screw up like I did. Okay, so as far as setup goes, we have these campaign setup rules, and we have the regular setup rules. The regular setup is literally unfold the game board, choose your hero, take out the upgraded stuff, which is what I was showing you, those little golden banners. Shuffle your deck, draw 4 cards. If you don't like the 4, there's a mulligan rule we can go over where you set those aside and you can draw 4 more, and then you shuffle the 4 you set aside back in, and then everybody gets 1 turn card, which is this. Okay, that's just basically telling you what happens on your turn. And then you get 3 action tokens, which are these, just to show or signify that you get 3 actions on your turn. So you spend those to remind yourself of how many you have left. And then they're telling you to set up you put your hero down. This is your hero deck, actually, that's shuffled with the upgraded cards taken out. You have your hero card, and then you have your starting equipment. Everybody starts with 2 equipment. I haven't seen any exceptions. Okay, so then you're going to have a threat area. So basically, you need a space for enemies to appear or other things. And then you just need your little player aid. That's really it. And then the only thing not shown here is you need 3 of these tokens, right? So you put those out. And then obviously, you're going to have to choose a color, put your hero on the color, and because you have to find your miniature that goes with it, which that could take you longer than the rest of the setup to do. All right, and if you do that, your hero is golden. He's good to go. Now, from the campaign perspective, this is where you have to jump back and forth. You choose a hero and you play them the entirety of the campaign. So you don't get to switch heroes or anything like that. So make sure it's one that you're going to like. And then your upgrade cards get added to the campaign pool, which is basically, like I said, when you finish a mission and you get to train your character and level them up, then you get to pull from them. Okay, so the enemy also gets upgrade cards. That's for the campaign. We talked about those. We looked at one of them. And so those cards just get set aside, and then they'll upgrade as well in between missions. And then if you're playing a story, then you got to do the story rules. So what does that mean? Well, if we're going to do Out of Luxor, which is this one, you would open it up, and we're going to start, like, for example, on chapter 1, right? And so then we got to do, see, it says perform the first steps of normal game setup, then each hero gains 1 focus. So one of the reasons I have this is so I can put that there on the green screen, makes it a little easier to read. And so there's going to be some exceptions to your setup if you're playing the campaign. So we'll do that. And then there's even everybody gets a supply. We get to choose. So there's some choose your own adventure. I don't want to spoil it or anything yet. And so we're going to have to go through this as part of setup. And I'm actually going to do that for the playthrough. This book up, the campaign book, and go through those changes. As far as setting up the base game, this is it for campaign. Now there's some campaign upkeep. Now upkeep just means in between missions. So we'll read that and go over that when that changes. They did have a big section where they're going bonkers on changing, joining, or leaving a campaign. I at least admire them for explaining it, because somebody always asks that question. basically what they tell you to do is don't do it. But if you do insist on doing it, and if your hero has upgraded twice and you choose a new hero, then you get to upgrade that one twice. I mean, it's pretty balanced. Just whatever happened to the hero you're getting rid of, do it to the hero you're replacing him with. It's pretty common sense if you ask me, but they did take the time to try to explain that, and I guess you got to admire it. Okay, so back to I'm going to make 100 mistakes, so I'm not going to pick on those guys for what they did because I definitely live in a I'm not throwing stones in a glass house. Okay, so here the players choose a quest deck and perform the following. Now, forgive me. The campaign is going to tell you what the quest setup is. So, for example, with chapter 1, after we go through the first page, it's going to tell you quest setup, and then boom, we're going to do the search, Raglanders, and Gert. So we'd already discussed that, but this here you don't do. You just basically do what the campaign tells you, and then you choose a threat deck and prepare figures, which again the campaign dictates that. The villain deck is dictated by the campaign. Now, what you read here, though, is still helpful because you need to put this scheme side up. Like, the campaign's not going to explain that to you, that you have to do a villain, scheme side up near the game board, blah, blah, blah. So, to play the campaign, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than a regular game because you're going to have basically 3 sections of the rulebook in front of you. You got to have the actual campaign itself, which is overriding all this. You're going to have this, which gives you at least some helpful information. And then you're going to have, in the back, the campaign rules. So it's not bad. I'm probably making a bigger deal out of it than I need to. Prepare token and other miniatures, etc. Prepare your card decks, and then begin the quest. So from a setup perspective, there's not that much to it. We do get to choose like which room on the game board we're going to start in. I will do that as part of the playthrough because, as you can tell, I haven't even punched the components. It says if it's your first time, they recommend that you choose Frock's threat deck, blah blah blah. You're more than welcome to try that. I think every YouTuber who's going to record this game will probably do the first game recommendation. You know me, I never do. So we're going to do the campaign. We're going to do it from the beginning because I bought this game because of the campaign. If I wanted to play a modular deck system, I'd just play Brook City. So I'm doing this for the campaign, and that's why we're here, and that's what we're going to do. So I did this big grandiose affair to show you just how much components are in the game. But by the time we get to the next video, this will all be narrowed down, and I will have chosen my heroes. I haven't even decided how many heroes I'm going to try to control at once. I'm tempted to say I want to do 4 because I always joke and say real men do 4 or max amount. But this game intimidates me a little bit because there's a lot of rules on every card. And if you're trying to keep track of 4 heroes, and believe it or not, when you record videos like this, it actually distracts you from concentrating on the game because I'm always trying to think about, okay, what am I saying to the viewers? It can be a little overwhelming, and what I'm worried about is I'm going to start missing rules, or someone's going to start saying, hey, why did you use this card that did this? And I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot I had that card. That's what happens when you're controlling 4 characters. Now, why do I control 4 characters? Because to me, a dungeon romping game is supposed to be about character synergy. It's supposed to be about 4 characters working together to overcome a problem that's bigger than themselves. And I know that's deep and that's philosophical, but that's what RPGs are for me. And I really despise it when I play those RPG games on the computer where you're just one character doing everything. I don't like that. I want a team. That's what I grew up with. This is a team overcoming challenges because one person by themselves is not good enough to overcome all the challenges. That's what I like in an RPG. I want to see those synergies. I also don't want it to be 4-player solitaire where all 4 players can just go to their own corners of the dungeon and do whatever they want, and they're not working together. That also bothers me. This game worries me because it has a little bit of that. But I have a feeling that you're going to need to stick together if you want to overcome some of the bigger challenges. So we'll see. Okay? Don't want to be judgmental about something I haven't even punched the tokens for. So, with that being said, welcome to the table. We will grab our cards and I will go through the campaign book. We will do Out of Luxon. There is another one, The Ruins of Arkenspire, um, which comes with the expansion. This one here, uh, I figured that since this came with the expansion, it's going to be more advanced. Like it's going to be more difficult. It's, the Sadler brothers throw in all their sadism. There was some pun intended there. Um, they I think that it's going to be harder, and I don't, I'm not proclaiming to be good at this game. I think all the stuff I've learned from Brook City is going to help me with this. But with that being said, yeah, let's get through it. Now, last thing I want to talk about is Brook City did this too, where they had these trays for storing miniatures. I frankly don't like this system, uh, largely because the so these miniatures are going to go with one deck of cards here. So remember how we choose 4 decks and all the other decks are out of the game. Well, these miniatures are either in or they're out. And what I like to do is get a baggie and I put all these miniatures in that baggie along with their deck of cards because they go together. So if you're choosing this deck of cards, you're also choosing the baggie that goes with it and all the miniatures. Like from a campaign setup and teardown perspective, the game is so much easier to set up instead of trying. Okay, now after we finish playing, you got to put all these individually back in. I mean, it just And then right now, if whoever I select, whatever I select, I got to now find the miniatures for them, and it's a little painful. But with that said, they do pack up nicely, and they did do a good job. I mean, I'm complaining about it, but at the same time, this is just personal preference. I personally think that just throwing all these in a baggie along with their deck of cards is the right way to go. But they're there. You can see how well organized they are, and there's just a mountain of them. Also, I have the game Sword and Sorcery. Never did a playthrough of it on video, at least. But stuff like this doesn't exist in Brook City. I mean, they do have the vehicles like the boats and stuff like that, but um, these are interesting because these are used in every game. They're also. I almost would have preferred that they had, one of these trays that was the stuff that's used in every game, and then another tray that's, that's not. I'm pretty darn sure this is the villain tray here, but I will find out as as I go through this. And yes, we'll see you in video 2. How long did this take me? 42 minutes? Yeah, someone's going to complain. Took way too long. That's okay. This was I mean, I'm pretty excited about this game, so we'll see where it takes me. And thank you for joining me at the table, and we'll get to it in video 2. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome.